Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about pipelines. Before I start demonstrating how to create a pipeline from scratch, I want to talk to you about pipelines first. So what can machine learning pipelines do? An Azure machine learning pipeline is an independent executable workflow of a complete machine learning task. Subtasks are encapsulated as a series of steps within the pipeline. An Azure machine learning pipeline can be as simple as one that calls a Python script, so may do just about everything and anything. The pipelines should focus on machine learning tasks such as data preparation, including importing, validating, cleaning, transformation, normalization, so on and so forth. The second thing is training configuration, which includes file paths and logging and so on and so forth. Training and validating, well, efficiently and repeatedly. So efficiency might come from specifying a specific data subsets, different hardware to compute resources, distributed processing, or progress monitoring. So that could be included under the umbrella of training and validating. And the final thing, which is most likely it's the most important step for you, it's deployment. And I talked about deployment before. Deployment is where you deploy your model where it is ready for you to use in client applications. You can just basically add it to a web server or service or a mobile app or anything really. So how to go about creating a pipelines? So I'm in the Azure Microsoft homepage, and I have choose my last video's auto AI experiment, and I'm going to launch my studio. So when I launch my studio, you would see that I already completed and run my automated machine learning. So what I need to do is I need to create a pipeline. So you either create it from here, or you create it from the assets. So new pipeline. When you create a new pipeline, you get this workflow. In here, you get all of the pipeline itself properties or settings. The most important thing that you need to change here is the compute target. Yeah, you need to select a compute target. And obviously, I have created my cluster before, so I'm going to choose this cluster. Other experiments will have different clusters and datasets that you've built. So on the left-hand side, you will find different assets you can use from. You can use from datasets, which basically I've created. I'm not going to use this because I've used this before. I want to use different one. Sample datasets, you can choose from them. And then you get data inputs, feature selections, machine learning algorithms, statistical functions, text analysis, and so on and so forth. Analytics, and so on and so forth. So let's start building our pipeline. So what I'm going to create is I'm going to create a complete data set, a complete task. And this task simply will be regression task. And I'm going to apply training module. I'm going to do everything from normalizing the data, splitting the data, and normalize and evaluating, and so on and so forth. So from the sample data sets, I'm going to use the automobile price data, which is this one here. You simply grab it. If you right-click on your data node and visualize your data output, you will see all the columns on your data with the labels. And you can see some visualizing sort of like graphs here representing the data values. If you scroll there, you'll find your price, which is basically the column that we want to predict. Clicking on that will give you some statistics and some graphs as well. You'd be looking into your data here and making sure that you don't have a relative, so you'd be looking at the labels and trying to figure out which labels that you can actually live without, especially if your data set is too big. So what is important to you to predict the price and what is not. You look at the normalized loss, and you'll find a lot of NAs, which is basically missing data, which would affect the fairness of your data set and the outcome. So you might want to not really use that because it's not going to affect the price prediction. Things like the make, for instance, is very important for your price prediction. The engine size and so on, the consumption ratio, horsepower, and so on and so forth. Okay, so after that, what we do, we're gonna select columns in dataset, and we'll find that in the data selection, feature selection. Oh no, sorry. Okay, so from the the data transformation, you scroll down and you select columns in dataset. Choose that, yeah? Place it under your automobile, just move it here. And then you connect with the dataset. So now the dataset will feed in the select column. If you look in here, you want to select the columns that you want. And basically, all what you want is you want all columns apart from normalization. Yeah. So I'm going to go by name. And I'm going to select all and deselect the normalization loss because, as we discussed earlier, it has a lot of missing values. And then I'm going to save that. The next thing is we still have, like, if again we go back to our data set, we view that, we will still have some missing values in other columns. Okay. Obviously, the normalization one is the most damaging one, but the others will have some missing values. You'll find them in A's here and there, but they're not that damaging. Yeah, like for instance, the pro and stroke will have some NAs. They're not as much as the normalization. We still need these, but we want to clean the missing values. Okay. Now, if I look after running it, I keep forgetting. Cool. So what I need is I want to clean missing data from the transformation tab again. I am going to connect it with it. And now in missing data, I want to choose the columns that I want to clear the data from. And obviously, these are going to be the bore and the stroke and the power, the horsepower. Because those are the ones that visually we had missing values in. Other options are fine. So now we cleaned our data. The next thing we need to do is we need to normalize the data. So we need to choose that from normalization. It's data transformation. If we scroll down, we find normalize data. Okay. Now notice that we have two outputs for the clean missing data. So we're going to have the right output, which is the clean data to the input of the normalized data. And in the normalized data, we're going to choose the minimum and maximum. Going to keep it true, and then we need to simply select all columns. And that is all columns in the data set. Make sure that to include all of them. So now after selecting all the data categories that we wanted to normalize, then the next thing is to split your data. Again, in the data transformation, we select split the data, and then now you're going to choose on what basis you're going to split the data for. So I'm going to use 0.7, which is basically 70% training and 30% testing, and I'm going to just randomly create a random seed to make sure to guarantee that randomness in the selecting of the rows. Okay, the right output of the normalization to the input of the data split. And now, after I split my data, I'm going to train and create my model. To create the model, you need to create 2 nodes. So the first one is you're going to model training, and you choose train your model and input that there. Okay, put that there. And in the same time, you want the machine learning algorithms, and you want to choose a machine learning algorithm, which is in this case the linear regression. Okay. Now my linear regression output will go to the right hand side of my train input, so that is going to be my linear algorithm, and the right output of my split data will go to the right input for my training. So output of linear regression will be left input, train model, and left output, split data, will be right input, train model. And in this case, and in this way, we're telling the train model node that use linear regression as your algorithm, and this is the data you want to work with. Obviously, you need to choose the predicted column, which is, in our case, is the price. Okay. Now you've created a model, you've imported your data, you selected the columns you wanted to be part of your data set, you clean the missing value, you normalize your data, now you split your data, now you are training the data. So what else? You need to score the model and evaluate your model. So in the not train your model, there is evaluate your model tab. Model scoring and evaluation. From there, you're gonna have the score module node. And that basically will be linked to split data and output of the training module. And in this case, what you're telling the score module node is basically compare your output from your input from your data, from your trained module, and compare it with your original data, and then give me a score. So basically, we are going to check how many positive positives we have and positive negatives we have, and how many negative positives we have and negative negatives we have. And the last thing is evaluate your model after scoring it, and that simply takes on this one. And here you go, guys. After that, you're gonna save your pipeline and simply submit. Obviously, create an experiment. Let's call this regression. I'll call it pipeline, and I'm creating a new one. I'm going to say pipeline rig, linear rig, ln rig, and I'm going to submit. And now that will take a couple of minutes for it to run, as you see here, and all modules should be completed, similar to what we have here in the monitor. After the module, the pipeline completes, it will complete every single node as it is. If there is an error in one of the nodes, it will break and tell you. And then you can look at the metrics. You can get snapshots. You can do different things with your pipeline, basically. That's all for pipelines for this session. Hope this helps, and see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.